In my family, I was never supposed to be the successful one. That role belonged to my sister, Jessica, the golden child, the influencer, whose life was a perfectly curated feed of wellness, teas, and borrowed luxury. I'm Victoria. I'm a data scientist at a major AI firm. But you wouldn't know it. I live quietly in Austin, drive a 10-year-old sedan, and prefer statistical models to social media. My family thinks I have a simple tech job. It was just easier that way. It kept me out of the spotlight Jessica craved, the one my parents aimed directly at her since birth. She got the private coaching, the designer clothes, the endless praise. I got told to be quieter during her photo shoots. If she wanted something, the entire family's gravity would shift to get it for her. If I needed help, I got a pat on the back and a, "You'll figure it out." You always do. I'm not bitter. Or at least, I wasn't. I just kept my head down, worked hard, and made peace with the fact that I was the support system, not the star. The thing is, behind the perfect filters and sponsored posts, Jessica has no idea how to manage anything real. She's burned through relationships, apartments, and jobs, always landing softly in a safety net woven by our parents' checkbook. So when she finally got a guy, Matthew, to propose, my family practically threw a parade. It was like Jessica had finally secured her future, and we were all expected to be extras in her fairy tale. I played along. I went to the engagement party, smiled through the toasts, and listened to her drop numbers like confetti: a vintage car for $50,000, a dress for 20, flowers for 10. Every detail was a performance. But the real shock came a week later. Over lunch. I should have known something was up when she offered to pay. Jessica never pays. She ordered some ridiculously expensive matcha latte, looked at me with that practiced, sweet smile she uses when she wants something, and said, "So, I've been thinking, you're doing really well." Right. I gave her a careful look. I'm doing fine. No. I mean, asterisk really times well. You're probably killing it with investments. Right. I waited. I knew what was coming. I just didn't know how big the number would be. She leaned in. So listen. I'm a little over budget on the wedding. Just by a tiny bit. Okay. 100,000 to be exact. I almost choked. You're over budget by 100 grand. She waved it off like it was nothing. It's a vibe. Trust me. Anyway, I was hoping you could help. Help how I asked? Though I already knew. She smiled. Sweet and poisonous. Cover the difference. It's nothing to you. Right. You'd be making sure your only sister has the day of her dreams. I stared at her, stunned by the sheer entitlement. There was no gratitude. Just expectation. I took a breath. Jessica. No. That's not happening. Her smile faltered. Wow. Okay. Thanks for nothing. She stood up. Fine. Forget it. I'll figure it out. Just remember this. And with that, she walked out. But it wasn't drama. It was a threat. 2 weeks later, a text from Jessica lit up my phone. Dinner at my place. Let's clear the air. I knew I shouldn't go. But a small, stupid part of me still hoped. So I went. The moment I stepped into her apartment, I knew I'd made a mistake. It wasn't just us. My mother, Susan, was there, sitting stiffly on the couch next to a man in a crisp suit. A lavier. My gout tightened. This wasn't a dinner. It was an ambush. Jessica walked out of the kitchen, holding a glass of wine, wearing that same sweet smile she used when she was about to light someone's world on fire. Victoria. Hi. This is Mr. Albright. We were just going over some paperwork. I didn't move from the doorway. What is this? Jessica. My mother finally spoke. Her voice laced with that familiar, weaponized disappointment. Victoria. Don't be dramatic. Your sister just wants to formalize your contribution. Mr. Albright stood and offered a folder. Ms. Grant. Your sister has an investment agreement she'd like you to review. I took the folder and opened it. The title read, Familial Investment and Support Agreement. It was a digitally forged contract, claiming I had pledged a $100,000 investment into the brand equity of her wedding. It even had a clumsy copy of my digital signature at the bottom. I looked up, my blood running cold. You forged a contract. Jessica sighed, taking a sip of wine. Not forged. Vicky. Just memorialized. You said you'd support me. This just makes it official. My mother jumped in, her voice pleading. Honey, think of the family's image. Matthew's parents are very influential. We can't have Jessica canceling vendors now. It would be humiliating. Your sister is fragile. You know that. This stress is not good for her. Fragile. That was the word they always used. The excuse for every lie. Every tantrum. Every act of selfishness. Jessica wasn't fragile. She was a predator who had learned that crying got her whatever she wanted. I'm not signing this, I said, my voice low and steady. This is insane. Jessica's sweet facade finally cracked. You will sign it, she hissed. Or what, I challenged. She glanced at the lawyer, then back at me, a cruel smirk playing on her lips. Or I will make sure your little tech job hears about some of your very creative accounting practices. I've seen your old tax files. It would be a shame if someone leaked them. The threat was so absurd, it was almost funny. My financials were ironclad, but she didn't know that. She was bluffing, using the one thing she thought I cared about, my quiet, stable career, against me. My mother put a hand on my arm. Please, sweetie, just do this for your sister, for the family. I looked from my mother's pleading face to my sister's smug one. They weren't asking for money. They were demanding my submission. They had built a cage for me my entire life. And this was their attempt to finally lock the door. Jessica didn't wait for my response. She went nuclear the next day. A post appeared on her Instagram. Then Facebook. It was a long, rambling caption under a black and white photo of us as kids. She wrote about her heartbreak, about how a family member she trusted had made a promise to support her dream wedding, only to cruelly back out at the last minute. Driven by greed, she never used my name. But she didn't have to. Everyone knew. She painted herself as the tragic bride, the victim of a cold, heartless sister who valued money over family. And the comments poured in. Hundreds of them. You deserve better. Don't let them ruin your special day. It went viral in our local circles, spreading like a disease. My phone started buzzing with texts from cousins and old family friends, all asking why I was being so cruel to poor Jessica. But the real blow came when my own mother commented on the post. A simple, public validation of the lie. She wrote, My brave girl, we are so proud of you for standing up for yourself. We love you. That was it. That was the moment. Something inside me finally broke. Not my heart. My patience. I was done being the quiet, reliable foundation for their dysfunctional little empire. I was done protecting people who saw me as nothing more than a resource to be drained. That night, I finally told my husband everything. Ryan and I had been married for 2 years. A secret we kept, for one simple reason: protection. I knew my family, and the less they knew about my life, the less they could leverage against me. Ryan isn't just my husband, he's a cybersecurity expert. One of the best. He listened to the whole story, the demand, the ambush, the forged contract, the smear campaign, with a calm, focused intensity. When I finished, he didn't say, I'm sorry. He didn't offer platitudes. He just looked at me, his eyes dark, with anger on my behalf, and said 4 words that changed everything. This is more than extortion. He blinked. What do you mean? He pulled his laptop onto the kitchen table. The way she talked about your finances, the specific threat about your taxes, she doesn't just think you have money. Victoria, she knows something, or she thinks she does. A threat that specific, based on a forged document. It's not just a tantrum. It's a pattern. He started typing, his fingers flying across the keyboard. I'm going to look into that digital signature on the contract. I'm going to trace where that document was created. And I'm going to find out exactly how deep this rot goes. I watched him, a cold sense of dread mixing with a flicker of hope. He wasn't just my husband. He was my ally. And for the first time, I wasn't fighting this alone. The digital paper trail had begun. It took Ryan less than 48 hours. What he found was worse than I could have ever imagined. He sat me down at the kitchen table, his face grim. It's not just about the wedding, Vic. It's about her entire life. He turned the laptop screen toward me. It was a credit report. My credit report. Except it was filled with things I'd never seen before. A business loan for $50,000 taken out 8 years ago. Multiple high-limit credit cards opened and maxed out. A car loan for a luxury SUV I'd never owned. It all traced back to one person, Jessica. Years ago, when she was first trying to launch her influencer career, she didn't just ask for money. She stole my identity. She had used my pristine credit, my social security number, everything, to build her fake empire from the ground up. The tax documents she threatened to leak weren't mine. They were from the fraudulent business she'd started in my name. She wasn't bluffing with a lie. She was bluffing with a crime she'd committed. All those years I thought she was just being bailed out by our parents. She was actually bleeding me dry, burying me in debt under a name I didn't even know she was using. My entire body went numb. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was a violation on a level I couldn't comprehend. Armed with this horrifying truth, I made one last call. I called my father. David. I needed to know, once and for all, if there was anyone left in that family who saw me as a person. His voice was tired when he answered. Victoria. What is it? I didn't waste time. I just told him. I told him about the identity theft, the fraudulent loans, the years of deception. I laid out the entire ledger of lies. I waited for shock, for anger, for a promise to make it right. Instead, there was a long, heavy sigh. Your sister, she gets carried away, he said, his voice soft with excuse. She's just not as strong as you are. Victoria. She sees what you have, this stable life, and she wants it too. She just doesn't know how to build it the right way. She's fragile. That word again. Fragile. The ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card? That's when the last thread of hope I had for him snapped. Fragile, I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. She committed multiple felonies using my name. That's not fragile. Dad. That's calculated. If I'm so strong, is it because I had to be? Because you and Mom were so busy protecting the fragile one that you forgot you had another daughter? He didn't have an answer. He just stammered something about not picking sides. There are no more sides to pick, I said, the words feeling like a final, clean cut. I'm done. Don't call me again. Don't have Mom call. We're done. I hung up the phone before he could reply. The grief I expected to feel wasn't there. In its place was a cold, hard resolve. This was never about a wedding. It was about my entire life. And I was finally ready to take it back. We didn't plan a confrontation. We planned an operation. Revenge. I realized, wasn't about screaming matches or tearful confessions. It was about dismantling a corrupt system with cold, irrefutable facts. Ryan and I spent the next week compiling every piece of evidence into a single, encrypted file. The fraudulent loan applications with Jessica's handwriting on them, IP addresses from her apartment used to open credit cards in my name, bank statements showing the loan money being funneled directly into her accounts, even metadata from her old Instagram posts, which proved she was at a luxury resort. On the same day, a massive cash advance was taken out on one of the cards. It was a digital tombstone for her entire life. We didn't send it to her lawyer. We didn't send it to my parents. We sent it anonymously to a financial crimes journalist, a woman famous for her brutal, en-depth, exposé en influencé scams. Her beat wasn't just about outing fraud. It was about showing the world the rotten core beneath the filtered smiles. We gave her the story of a lifetime. And she didn't hesitate. The article dropped on a Tuesday morning. The headline was devastating. The Golden Influencer: How Jessica Grant Built a Six-Figure Lifestyle on a Foundation of Identity Theft and Familial Fraud. It was a masterclass in journalistic destruction. It had screenshots, timelines, and direct quotes from the banks confirming the fraudulent activity. It went viral in hours. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Jessica's sponsors dropped her within the day, issuing public statements condemning her actions. Her talent agency terminated her contract. The comments on her social media turned from adoration to outrage. Her perfect, curated world imploded in real time. Matthew, her fiancé, posted a statement on his own social media, announcing the wedding was off, citing irreconcilable differences and a profound breach of trust. The vineyard venue publicly announced they were pursuing legal action for the deposit she'd paid with a fraudulent card. But the final, most satisfying blow was a small update at the bottom of the article. The journalist confirmed that local authorities and the IRS had opened a joint criminal investigation into Jessica Grant for felony identity theft and tax evasion. She wasn't just canceled, she was ruined. And as I watched the empire she built on my name crumble to dust, I didn't feel rage or even triumph. I just felt the quiet, clean hum of a debt being settled. She didn't just lose her wedding. She lost everything. And her enabling parents were left to stand in the rubble right alongside her. Months later, life was quiet. Ryan and I moved. We bought a small house with a bit of land, an hour outside the city. A place where the only noise was the wind, and the only drama was what to plant in the garden. His cybersecurity firm took off, and I took a promotion at work, leading a new division focused on ethical AI. We were thriving. Not in a loud, flashy way, but in a deep, peaceful way that felt more real than anything I'd ever known. The silence from my family was absolute. No calls, no texts, no flying monkeys sent to plead their case. It was as if I had been a ghost in their lives all along. And now, I had simply vanished. I was fine with that. Peace, I learned, wasn't about getting an apology. It was about not needing one anymore. Then one day, I had to drive into the city for a meeting. On the way home, I stopped at a coffee shop, one of those big, generic chains. And as I stood in line, I saw her. It was Jessica. She was behind the counter, wearing a stained green apron and a headset. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. The vibrant blonde faded to a dull yellow. She looked tired, thin, and utterly defeated. She was taking an order, her voice flat and robotic. A million miles away from the bubbly, charming influencer she used to be. Our eyes met for just a second. A flicker of recognition crossed her face, followed by a wave of pure, uncut shame. She looked down immediately, turning her back to me, pretending to wipe down a counter that was already clean. And in that moment, seeing her so broken and small, I didn't feel a shred of victory. I didn't feel anger, or pity, or even satisfaction. I felt nothing. A profound and complete neutrality. The war was over. The rage had burned itself out, leaving behind nothing but clean, quiet ash. My real victory wasn't her downfall. It was my liberation. It was the freedom to stand in the same room as the person who tried to destroy me and feel absolutely nothing at all. I got my coffee and walked out without looking back. That night, sitting on our porch with Ryan, watching the stars come out, he took my hand. "You okay?" he asked quietly. I leaned my head on his shoulder, breathing in the cool night air. For the first time in my life, the chains were gone. The weight of their expectations, their manipulations, their suffocating narrative, it had all fallen away. I was finally, completely, my own. Better than okay, I said. And for the first time, it was the absolute truth. I'm free.